Hi, I'm Misty Poe. I am an art teacher at Hopewell Middle School, and today I'm demonstrating how to paint with coffee. I've got some coffee here that I poured into my little palette. You could use a bowl, you could use a little plate. You don't need to have a ton of coffee. You don't want to have a ton of water that can just spill real easily. But what you do want to do is get a small brush and just start applying first where you want the darkest values to be. So I am going to paint the back of my little wren with this coffee and just try to lightly, I don't want it too watery that it's just gonna soak in and run all over the place. Just want to lightly add the color where the darker values are first. Now, coffee is definitely something that you could use as mixed media. Also, if you happen to have colored pencils laying around, crayons, regular drawing pencils, you could also mix those into once your painting is dry. You certainly don't want to draw into wet paper because that can tear. But combining the media can actually add to and make your artwork that you are creating even more interesting. So as you know, you'll notice the very first layers of my coffee are not super dark, and that's okay because you will have to add layers. But again, you want to let it dry a little bit between layers, which is why you might want to take a pencil or a colored pencil or something else you have to work with to add details while you're waiting for that paint to dry. So say you have a dark colored pencil or charcoal pencil, you could be coloring in the eyes. You could be adding some detail to the feet or the background with some of that while you're waiting for that layer of paint to dry. I feel like that's probably dry enough. Let's go ahead and add the next layer of paint. So with the coffee that I'm using, there's still some coffee grounds in it that will keep it nice and pigmented while I'm painting. And that might help you keep yours that way. So here we go. I'm going to build that color. If you notice already, I'm not putting too much water. I'm just lightly painting over the last color. You notice it's already a little bit darker than it was the last time. And this is more of a slow process than it would be for other mediums, but it is something that will create a really unique and painterly effect that you can enjoy just like you would paint. I'm also going to add some of these coffee grounds, if I can scoop them up and add them down here at the bottom. Look how dark this got with the coffee grounds kind of dissolved up in it just from sitting for a while and kind of stirring it up. So it gives me a really nice dark ground texture. And I just made that by scooping up some of these coffee grounds with my paintbrush and kind of mushing them together into the paper. Oops. This part's getting dry again, so I'm going to go back and add a little bit of this dark color to make sure that I pick up a texture that doesn't cover the whole thing. I want some texture on that look like some darker patterns on the wing. And again, it's going to take a few layers. I'm going to be building those colors for a little bit, but I'm starting to get the effect that I want. If there's ever a spot that you don't want to be dark, you just want to kind of move the color around, again, you can take your paper towel and you can lift that color. If you just add some water that doesn't have coffee in it, just dab that brush on there and then blot it with your paper towel. Once it starts drying, it will be a bit lighter than the other colors around it. What I'm doing is I poured out most of the water. Mostly what I have left in my palette is just some coffee grounds with a tiny bit of water. Not much water at all. And what I'm doing with that is I'm using that to make the darkest textures, the darkest values on the wren. And so it doesn't really take very much at all. You can just grab some of those coffee grounds. It's already so dark pigmented that it's going to make it really easy to go in here and build up these dark lines. It makes it easier to have more control over the actual texture that you're getting also. So up in this area, added an area where I didn't have a lot of moisture or a lot of water on the brush. I had mostly just the coffee ground texture. So I was able to add some speckled texture up right near the beak of the wren. I was able to go back in and add some really dark values where I need them. And over here, it made it a lot easier to add the little checkered patterns on the tail and on the wing just by adding these really, really dark coffee values on here. So, that is my coffee wren, and I hope you guys find something to play around with and have some fun painting with coffee. Good luck, guys!